Is 2022 the vintage of the century?
Stay tuned and find out.
Howdy, everyone. I'm Kyle. This is Tristen.
Yep.
We are the partners/buyers for Wine Exchange and WineX.com here in sunny Southern California. And we recently came back from our annual trip to taste the 2022 Bordeaux Futures.
Correct.
Right. Very exciting time.
Yes, it is. And in fact, we just got back. Literally 2 days ago, and both of us are suffering from jet lag because we're calling each other at 4:30 in the morning. That being said, it was a fantastic trip, and it's a fantastic vintage as well. A lot of things going on with the vintage. There's a lot of rumor around that it's one of the top vintages, and some people said they made the best wines they've ever made.
Well, the key thing is the weather, right? So everyone's calling this a surprising vintage. They're calling it a shocking vintage, mainly because there was this incredible heat wave, this unrelenting heat wave that started in June and carried through almost all the way to harvest. Simultaneously, there was almost no rain during that same point of time. Extreme drought in the area, but there were a couple saving graces that we think and that the Bordelais think attributed to this being such a special vintage.
Right, and that is, early in the season, they had a very rainy spring. And they think that essentially, the limestone and the clay kind of soaked up the rain and retained the water so that when they went into drought, the vines, struggled to get to the water, which allowed, a little more concentration in the fruit. Mm-hmm. So, and the thing is that what's, I think, surprised most of the Bordelais, and even us, tasting the wines, we kind of heard rumors before, but the thing is, and there's two words that they said in Bordeaux more than any other two words, and one of them was freshness.
Heard freshness a lot.
We heard it a lot. We're not going to use it in our reviews because we heard freshness almost at every single tasting. And pH.
pH was a very big deal with the Bordelais this year.
And let's explain kind of what pH is all about.
Yeah.
pH is about the acidity levels in the wine. And so when you have a very warm vintage, you don't have the acidity for the freshness.
Right.
But
in this vintage, they had cooler evenings. Right, so the diurnal temperature shifts were a little greater than we saw in vintages like 2003 and other warm vintages, which allowed the vines to kind of rest and recuperate over the course of the evening before they got pounded again. This in conjunction with a little bit of rain in June. They got 100 mils of rain in June, which was kind of like this saving grace that helped the vines kind of recover and work their way all the way through the rest of the drought season into harvest. So, and we talk about pH, the numbers are boring. We're not numbers people here. We'll give you a few numbers over the course of the time. But when you're talking about a pH, it could have been 3.8 in normal circumstances, and for some reason it's 3.6. Well, this contributes to a lot of positive factors for the wine. It adds that freshness that we're not going to say the word anymore. We'll call it vibrancy, we'll call it energy, we'll call it whatever, right? And then, and also it allowed for cleaner fermentations, less issues with potential bacterial problems down the line, microbiological problems, Brettanomyces, these sorts of things kind of get pulled off the table with the lower pHs that they experienced in this vintage. So the wines they think are potentially going to age fantastic. That being said, even though they said this is an amazing vintage and these numbers are low and they're great, we're still dealing with and to us it's a great thing from a sales standpoint, what they call a solar vintage. This is a sunny vintage.
Yeah, and sunny vintages mean fruit. But the thing is Bordeaux is farming a little bit differently than they did in 2000 and in 2003. Very warm vintages, from that era, or even going back to 90, or even 82, or 89, which was another very warm vintage. They're picking earlier. They're using less oak. So picking earlier means you're trying to preserve the freshness. You're not letting the grapes get too ripe. And nobody farms better than the Bordelais. These guys are on top of the game. Most are organic, are HV3 certified. Many are biodynamic, which is even taking it to the next step. And all that, and when we ask the questions a lot, I mean, how does that pertain to being or farming this way to this vintage? And many of them said it's our saving grace.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the end result is we have wines of deep colors, rich fruit flavors, powerful tannins, good acidity, very ravishing, friendly, you can almost drink them now, styles of wines with deceptive tannin structures. So it's a vintage that is more powerful than you think when you're first tasting it, and a vintage that, you know, we got through most of the tasting day. We get 75, 80 wines in and go, wow. It's what we call a door shutting vintage, which really it allowed you to taste a certain amount of wines because of the power and weight of these wines. So, I mean, moving forward, just to let you guys know what we're gonna do, and then follow us on Instagram at The Wine Exchange, and on our YouTube channel here. We're going to be very active and try and post video tasting notes, our own personal video tasting notes, on potentially 200 to 300 wines from the vintage. This is going to be an ongoing concern for ours. We know there's a lot of critics out there. You're going to get 10 different reads, and this will just be one more read in the mix, an audio-visual read, if you will, and our personal opinion on the wines with our 25 years of experience with going to Bordeaux and tasting futures. So, Tris, I'm looking forward to working with you and taking them on this journey. This is gonna be cool, dude.
Yeah, totally.
60 seconds of wine, no more. We're gonna keep it short and sweet. And we hope you enjoy all the tasting notes.